a new mob movement started in the South. This was wholly political, its purpose being to suppress the colored vote by intimidation and murder. Thousands of assassins banded together under the name of Ku Klux Klans, Midnight Raiders, Knights of the Golden Circle, etc., and spread a reign of terror by beating, shooting, and killing colored people by the thousands. In a few years, the purpose was accomplished, and the black vote was suppressed. But mob murder continued. From 1882, in which year 52 were lynched, down to the present, lynching has been along the color line. Mob murder increased yearly until in 1892 more than 200 victims were lynched, and statistics show that 3,284 men, women, and children have been put to death in this quarter of a century.
Like we always do about this time.
I don't know.
Let's go! Hey! Hey! Let's get it. What is going on, world? It's your girl, Black Barbara Walters.
Sit your chair, it's your boy Welcome in the building.
And of course, it's that guy.
What up, though?
Mel.
Melly Mel, the man with the grand master plan.
I think that might be.
We didn't even practice
That
that.
may be me.
that might be his new intro. Bump all that other stuff. Welcome to another episode of I Often Wonder. Before we get into today's eavesdrop conversation, let's take care of some housekeeping rules. First and foremost, if you have not liked, shared, and subscribed, make sure you go ahead and do that. Turn on the post notifications. That way you can get all the updates when we upload videos on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, any of that stuff. So make sure you're following us on all of that. Where can you find that information? Don't worry, we got you. You can find that information at www.ioftenwonder.com. He ran the words together. That's where everything is at. You also can scroll down to the bottom of that page and you'll find the Patreon page where you can get all the merch. Of course, Lamar is always in the studio wearing the merch.
And it's cold as hell, and this hoodie has got me feeling warm and toasty.
And it's like 49 degrees outside.
Well, first of all, don't play me like that. When I got to the car, it was 40 degrees, and that 9 degrees makes a difference. So don't do me like that.
I didn't say it didn't. I'm just saying it was 49 degrees. I didn't say it wasn't cold.
Okay,
sir.
It's warming up.
Jeez.
Shake it off, nigga. Shake it off.
Right. Anywho, y'all already know there's already tomfoolery, but we are in the middle of season 2. Well, actually the beginning of season 2, not even the middle. And we've been doing this series. Since it is the month of February. And it's Black History Month. So why not celebrate everything that's Black? Black excellence, Black power, Black women, everything that's bliggity Black, baby.
I'm Black, y'all, and I'm Black, y'all, and I'm Black, the black, y'all.
If y'all have not been watching the other episodes, y'all know that is the official sound.
And yes, he is.
And it's midnight.
Oh, you jumping on that too?
I had to one time.
You two caramel delights, stop hating on me.
I like being caramel, all right?
Well, you almost burnt caramel, so
that's
don't do
fine.
Like
I'm all right. I'm okay with it.
Gotta redo it. Sugar got burnt.
I'm that caramelization on top of the creme brulee, all right?
I like how you put that.
I know. Listen, we gonna get into today's episode because as y'all see and as y'all hear, we will be on a tangent for days.
Right.
So I'm excited. Y'all know I'm always excited when we have a female on the line because it shows how strong, empowering, inspirational, any motivational word that you want to use can fit for this guest. I guarantee you.
Yeah, she top notch.
Actually, Jamel.
Yeah.
You introduced her because you set this up.
Yeah.
Did I do that?
You did.
Did I do that?
You did do that. So I'm gonna let you introduce her because she's pretty dope.
So I discovered her because my niece did a report on her. My sister said, "Hey, you need to check her out. She dope." I said, "Really?" So I'm thinking I'm going here and see if I can contact her, see if she's gonna answer. And she answered right back.
Oh, that's what's up.
That's what I like. So already I knew she knows she's gonna be a good connection.
Right.
But she is the youngest doctor, I think it is. And she can correct me when we bring her on, the youngest doctor born in Irvine, Georgia.
Georgia.
Dr. Ashley Peterson. I'm about to say Pearson. I don't know why.
No,
but
don't
Dr.
mess her
Ashley,
name up.
Dr. Ashley Peterson.
Welcome her to the studio,
Yeah.
guys. I love
You
it.
go, boy. Oh.
No,
No.
that was an old one.
Hey, Dr. Ashley, how are you this morning?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. I mean, we in the presence of greatness.
Listen, I'm excited because when you put the youngest and then you also add Black
And female.
and woman,
Right.
you have crossed 3 barriers all in one. Just
Yeah, she took a sledgehammer and all them barriers and
cracked it wide open.
knock them down.
Now, before we get into a little bit of your business, first we have to ask the main question we've been asking on this series.
Mm-hmm.
What does Black history mean to Dr. Ashley?
Yeah. So I will start by saying I'm the youngest Black osteopathic
There it is. Okay. I knew it was
doctor.
Yeah, I was going to let her say it because I mess it up every time.
Yeah, I feel you would have stumbled
when
on
I
that one.
graduated.
Okay.
And then the youngest ever from my school.
Okay.
They're always like discovering like new people that are younger actually. You have to think like back in the day, they didn't have to go to undergrad before they went. If anything, it was kind of like an apprenticeship. People start at different ages. So there's at least one more unidentified Black woman who was younger when she graduated.
Oh, wow.
So that's amazing. But we have no idea who it is. That's the issue.
Yeah, but we're going to rock with you, though. We're going to rock with you,
Right now we
though.
got you.
Until it's written in concrete, we
gonna
rock with you.
Right.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you for having me. And for me to answer your question, what is Black history, is everything for me. Is what inspires me, because when things are hard on my journey or have been hard, I always think back about where my ancestors, like their roots. And, you know, in some ways, I guess that makes me Black history too, because I carry them with me.
Right.
I'm the product of their wildest dreams, literally, in literal form. And I think that Black history is not only the great people that we know, you know, our MLKs, our Malcolm X,
right,
but also the people who are just like my grandmother, who actually walked with Dr. King in Montgomery.
Wow.
Yeah, who are my family members. You know, we're doing more research with the family, but we're finding out that, you know, some of my distant ancestors were people who were involved in the Tuskegee syphilis like tragedy.
wow,
and you know, even more people's stories that we won't hear. I think all of those people are Black history, even more so because it's the little pieces that make the whole, especially in America, because we are the minority here.
right,
Yes.
right.
And so realizing that all of us together created communities that were filled with different businesses and, you know, churches, and the helping your neighbor was even more so back previously. And so I think Black history is a lot of things. Like I said, for me, it's what motivates me and keeps me going. It's my ancestors literally like holding me up, you know, the reason why I continue on my dreams. And then it's like the little pieces that make the whole, because we have such a like vast history here. Every little person who was able to overcome the oppression and overcome the poor conditions and overcome the literally being treated like property. I think all of those people are miracles in a lot of ways. I've seen that quote a lot, like when Black people being alive today are literally like a miracle.
Oh, wow.
I agree with that because against all odds, we're here.
Exactly.
You know, we're having a phone call right now. You know, there are 4 living bodies being able to talk to each other.
Right.
In a lot of ways, compared to 300 years ago, definitely a miracle.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about
Probably.
that, it kind of just makes you say, "Wow!" Like
Yeah.
I'm Black history. Like
Right.
That's
I like
crazy.
that.
it's pretty impactful.
Every answer is just so in detail and so amazing.
Right.
You can't these answers cannot be duplicated. I'm telling you, they cannot, and they blow our mind every time. And your answer, of course, did just that. But let's eavesdrop into a little bit of your business. First, explain what kind of doctor you are, because I don't think a lot of people know what kind of doctor that is. I'm not gonna say it because I'm gonna fumble over the words. So I'm just gonna let you say it. I know my limitations, and that's one.
Of course. So I'm an osteopathic
Mhm.
doctor. So most people are familiar with an MD doctor, so medical degree. But my initials after my name are D.O. And so basically it's a doctor of osteopathic medicine. Actually, it's very interesting because now DOs are kind of more well known because Trump's doctor was an osteopathic doctor.
Right.
And actually his successor, so the person taking over for him is going to be an osteopathic doctor as well.
Oh, wow.
So that's never happened before. That's a glass ceiling, and that 2 DOs have succeeded each other as the sitting president position. And so that's very interesting to see. And then most people, like you said, don't know what osteopathic doctor is. And so for those who are learning more, I try to keep it short in that it was founded by A.T. Still.
Okay.
He was a man who decided that, bones were very important to how the body functions. And the musculoskeletal system and the lymphatic system were very related to our health as well. So there are 4 tenets that he developed that he has continued. And that is what helped me decide actually to go into osteopathic medicine because it's really big on like holistic and preventive medicine. I also thought that AT still was a groundbreaking in that like the 1800s, right? He had women in his first class. So he had a class of 21 people. And then of 21 people, he had 4 people that were women. He has multiple quotes showing him basically saying, this is like a white guy, kind of older, at this time when he started his first class. And he basically has multiple quotes saying like women are holistic and, women deserve to be educated and it's more than just them being women. And eventually there were Black people as well in his classes and in osteopathic medicine as well. And so the 4 tenets are basically that the body can heal itself. I think that's important because think about it, when we get a cold, that's the body healing itself.
Right.
When we get a scrape, the body heals itself.
Right.
One of the biggest things I tell people is just drink water, right? And you can kind of flush out toxins naturally, and water is usually either cheap or free. And so that's the body being developed to naturally do that. The vagina is a self-cleaning organ. The fact that people can think like new ideas, isn't that like super like amazing? Like how your brain can like quickly think up ideas and solutions. So basically, he believed that the body was self-healing. Then number two was that he felt that structure and function are interrelated. So the fact that you have two kidneys is not by mistake. The fact that you have two eyes is not by mistake. One mouth. I was a talker when I was a kid, so my mom used to always say stuff like, "You have one mouth and two ears to listen, one mouth to talk. Okay, there's a reason you need to listen." So basically, all that stuff is not by mistake, and so since it's by design, their function is related to that. And then because the body can heal itself, and then structure and function are related. Basically, if you can manipulate the body's like organs or manipulate specifically the musculoskeletal, which is basically like your muscles, the lymphatic system, which is basically like your body drains off toxins into different vessels that run along with your arteries, so your veins. And if you can manipulate those two systems in your body, as well as the back, because your back has nerves that run through it. If you can manipulate those, you can change how disease works, basically. And so we sometimes sometimes, I just say sometimes, we all have at least 300 hours of training, and some people more. I think I have more in my school that teaches what we call osteopathic manipulative treatment, OMT, really well.
Yeah, that's a
yeah, I know, right? That's why I just be like, OMT.
Yeah, we be using that.
And sometimes people call it OMM. And so
I say OMG, but okay.
People manipulate the back kind of like a chiropractor, but it's more involved than that.
Back sometime too.
And so a good example of that is like sometimes people have like chronic back pain. It's actually the number one reason people go to a doctor is back pain.
Just trying to help.
And so what a DO would do as opposed to their MD counterpart is they might do what we call an osteopathic screening, right? And so they'll find out that someone has their leg length are unequal. And so like their left leg is longer than their right leg by like literally like a fourth of an inch. Oh, wow. So that's enough for your spine to turn and cause pain. And so what an OMT doctor or a DO doctor would do is use OMT. So the treatment, like similar to different, and they would manipulate the back in order to try to make it more equal, and that might lead to the back pain kind of healing. And that's usually the example that I use because people can visualize like how, one side might be higher, it tilts to the side. People always ask though, like, how does this happen? Some people are born that way. Some people, it comes from like like having children, it never corrects. And then some people, like, for example, some people always keep like a wallet, like a thick wallet in the back. And then they sit on it, and that creates their spine to be uneven. There's many reasons why, but it's actually a very common cause of back pain that maybe your MD counterpart may be aware of or may not, just because it's thinking about the body as a whole.
Yeah.
And how like interconnected is one of our four tenets. So we automatically think that way. And like, okay, well, what is something that someone's doing every day that's causing these issues? Could I just tell someone, to, drink cranberry juice or like urinate after they have sex, or stop douching or stop using soap to prevent urinary tract infections and like yeast infections? Or do I need to just give them the anti-yeast medication because DOs don't have any limitation of practice that MDs have?
Really?
They can do surgery, they can do, just did a birth of a child like last weekend.
Oh,
Look at you,
wow.
girl. Look at you.
Thanks.
I deserve
And
a round of applause.
Well, give her the round
Oh.
of applause.
Yeah.
Bringing life into the world.
Right.
That's an amazing thing right there, boy.
Thank you. So just DOs can do well, I should say almost. DOs can do literally everything an MD can do. Plus they can do these osteopathic manipulative treatments. And so I think for me it was about, okay, well there's no limitation of practice. I can do everything an MD doctor can do, but I can also learn more about holistic medicine, preventive medicine, and like I said, what we call OMM or OMT, these like treatments you can do to the back to help people, more people maybe like avoid like some of the opioids that we see, or some of the surgeries that we see.
I'm glad you brought it up. I want to ask you, because when one of the tenets you had talked about the body being able to heal itself. Well, can you speak to the relationship between opioids that that we given all the time?
But hold on.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Don't answer that yet. We're gonna take a quick commercial break because that's gonna be a detailed answer, and I need those answers.
We need the full effects.
We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna have the answer from Dr. Ashley. Y'all stay tuned.
Do you feel sluggish and tired? Not getting enough sleep? Are you looking for a more holistic and natural approach to your health and wellness? Well, the Healing Component has just what you're looking for. Our body butters, bath bombs, teas, and other CBD products will assist you on your journey to holistic health. Follow us on Instagram at The Healing Component.
And we are back.
We back.
That was a perfect commercial for this episode.
I know. I believe in,
Holistic.
medicinal purposes
So
only.
do I. So do I.
Sometimes recreational. It's my cataracts. I get the laser eye.
Y'all see, we are back. We are talking with Dr. Ashley. And Jamel, if you don't mind, please repeat your question for the viewers that somehow fast forwarded to this point.
All right, then. I was saying, like, so you were saying earlier about one of the tenets is the body being able to heal itself. So can you speak to the relationship between, doctors prescribing all these opioids versus the body being able to heal itself? How does that relationship come together? Because if the body has the ability to heal itself, why are we being overly medicated?
Good question.
Great question, especially
I love it.
when it comes to opioids. Now, let me say this. Let me start by saying this. There are medications that are prescribed to patients that without the lifestyle changes needed, taking these medications prolongs their life.
Okay.
For example, blood pressure medicine, diabetic medicine. A lot of people could get off these medications if they lost weight or if they didn't eat like a high salt diet and they drink more water. They lived a less stressful lifestyle. And then for diabetes, usually it's losing weight. That's the major factor. And then eating a better diet and exercising continuously. Diabetes is the hard one. It's actually high blood pressure medicine most people come off of that I see. So I want people to know, please take your medicine. Talk to your doctor.
Yes. Disclaimer.
You need to, please.
Disclaimer.
Because it really does work. Based off the labs I've seen, based off the values I've seen, please take those medications until you're able to really commit to the daily lifestyle things. Now, opioids are different because research is showing over time, because they've done more research ever since this United States problem, right? Of like people like overdosing on opioids. I can't say that this was a problem before. I don't know what was a huge change, but like specifically like heroin has really, skyrocketed over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And then everything else too, like perks, and so many oxys, every opioid.
Mhm.
So to me, it's interesting because research has come out that shows that actually that opioids don't help with pain. They actually, over time, can cause you to be more sensitive to pain because of something called, I'll keep it simple, a mu receptor. So mu receptor, and people can Google that and put mu receptor and opioids and not working, and they'll show you like multiple studies showing that basically these receptors, they get so sensitive to opioids and pain that when you take opioids chronically over time, it makes these receptors more likely to feel pain. Isn't that interesting? But what happens with opioids, I don't know if you all have ever taken it. I had to take it once because I had
I had to take it once.
I had a surgery when I was a child, and I'll never forget that experience. I said, "Oh, I can't ever do drugs because this was way too good."
It was floating and it was not necessary.
Yeah. It was. I was like 8, and I had like this major ear and like head surgery to remove like a tumor and a pitting duct I had. So major surgery, and they should have given me opioids. A short course, which they did, but man, what happens is a lot of people become addicted to opioids, and I'm not sure if they know that they are addicted. They think that I need this or else I'm gonna feel pain.
Right.
That pain most likely is actually psychological and or the mu receptor kind of having like a withdrawal. So it's like, oh, you feel pain when it's not truly even doing much for the pain. And then what it does is it kind of blunts the pain. It doesn't fix the problem. Right. You still have a crooked back, or you still have something wrong with your muscular, which is why on TV I love, because you can use it to kind of fix those things. Not always. Sometimes you do need surgery, but you can at least try.
Right.
There's also physical therapy. Physical therapists do an amazing job.
They do.
They're
great.
They're great. They can really fix, like, have you ever seen someone who had knee surgery and then they're just like back up and walking within weeks and months? Like, they're doing excellent jobs as physical therapists. They're requiring them now actually to have doctorates in a lot of programs, and so their training is even more excellent. Like, it's amazing seeing what physical therapists do. But that's just a tangent of basically opioids came about though because what happens, there used to be 5 vital signs or 6 vital signs, and pain used to be one of them. And so what happens, people would over-treat pain. And so they saw it as a vital sign, like, are you in pain, sir? Yes. 10 out of 10 pain. And so they would treat it kind of like how they treat your blood pressure, your fever, your heart rate, how fast you're breathing. They would treat it as those things. And so they actually removed pain as the other vital sign, probably about 10, 15 years ago. Don't quote me. Please look that part up. But definitely before I was in medical school and before my training. So, but what happened was all these people are already on opioids long term. And then they started to see a lot of people like passing away in their sleep because they would take basically Xannies and Perks. And what the problem with these opioids is that they depress your central nervous system. So basically what they're doing is they're depressing your brain. Your brain's drive to breathe. That's the problem. So your brain is not getting signals like before to breathe. So see, a lot of people pass away in their sleep because they will have depression of their CNS system. And you guys can Google that stuff too. Because it's like so much, right? But yeah, it's funny that you on the break because it really is a like complicated answer. But the reason is a lot of people really do have chronic pain and we don't have a solution to help them. or not a widespread solution. Especially, unfortunately, my MD counterparts who don't have the OMT training, they don't have the training. They can learn now. There's a lot of programs that are teaching OMT and OMM, but overall, the OMM is exclusively something that DO doctors or osteopathic doctors know. And so if you're going to be treating back pain, which is, like I said, the number one diagnosis of why people come in, and you're not a DO or a chiropractor maybe, or some physical therapists are really good about doing like dry needling. If you don't have the skills to treat them, you're going to use medication.
Right.
Or you're going to use surgery. Which often, if you ever talk to someone who's had back surgery, they still have back pain.
Right.
So it's a never-ending cycle. And now you have these like 70-year-old people who are on opioids because they've been on it for kind of like the last 30 years. You're asking doctors to stop prescribing them medications that they've taken for 30 years. And I think it's just a never-ending cycle of trying to treat this pain that's from a structural problem, the bones. So you never really are able to treat, because it doesn't even work on the bones. It works on the pain site, like the receptor. So it doesn't even treat the bone. And so, people are basically masking their symptoms. Yeah, the issue. They're not even treating the issue. So they're going to have daily pain. And like I said, if you've ever been on opioids, it just dulls everything. It just overcomes the whole body, and you just don't feel anything. You don't feel feelings. That's why some people take it and get addicted to it, right? Because people are going through a lot. So they're trying to dull out feelings of their trauma, feelings of their, things that they've been through in life. And I understand it. It's just not the way to do so. Because like I said, opioids are very dangerous because of the side effects, especially when taken with other downers like alcohol.
Talk about
How many people drink alcohol? At least once a week, if not every day. And especially someone who might be trying to dull the pain, they're self-medicating at home. And then, some people, they're doing like the healthier alcohol thing, like a little bit of wine with a book at night. And then before you know it, grandma is like passed out somewhere because she has chronic back pain and she was just drinking some wine. I mean,
funny, but funny.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's something you could really visualize. And so someone, well, not just someone, multiple institutions, agencies, now it's called like an emergency in the United States about the opioid issue. Specifically heroin. If you go to some of these like more rural areas, West Virginia, I think they said that there was at least one person dying every day in this really small town from opioids, specifically heroin. That's pretty.
Yeah, that's a alarming rate. Is because I spent the year in New Jersey and up north, opioids is going crazy, especially heroin. Like I don't know what's making them do it, but I mean to each his own. But damn, like
not for me.
Nah, it's not for me. I can't.
I'm good without it.
I'm too scared.
But I see that at 15, you enrolled in UNC Charlotte studying anthropology with a minor in sociology.
49er.
So how does anthropology and sociology inform your everyday philosophy?
Yes. So great question. I gotta put on my anthropology sociology hat.
Put on now. Bring some out.
Well, we took a 180 really quick because as you can see, I'm really passionate because I feel very strongly that sometimes we don't have to use. Nice. Yeah, I just feel we don't have to always use medication, but I do say take your medication because some people are walking around with like stroke level blood pressure, but they also eat a chip
Right.
They're also like sitting down all day, never exercise. It's like, please take the blood pressure medicine.
Right. And
Please.
pass me the rib tips.
Exactly.
Away from the
That's
pork
just in me
rinds.
sometimes, right? Like I
Away.
love rib tips. So, but that it's a good segue actually into anthropology and sociology. So for people who don't know, there's like three main social sciences. There's psychology, there is anthropology, and there's sociology.
Okay.
So psychology, and people are always like, what is the difference? So I'll start with that. So psychology is the study of self like social science. So about one person, the individual. How does someone's psyche work?
Right.
Then sociology is the study of how does that same person function in society. So how are they at their job? How are they at their home? How are they with their friends? How are they in their family? So that's sociology, the study of society. The anthropology, this is where most people are like, I don't get the difference. Anthropology is the study of culture. And so basically that means how all societies over time are interrelated. So how does the person from biblical times affect us now? And how does our ancestors from slavery times affect us now? And how does our, ancestors from the generation before us affect us now? Because anthropology basically in a lot of ways believes almost all behaviors are learned behavior.
Right. And that's true.
Yeah.
Because like that's my minor is so I'm really big in psychology and sociology. I do a little bit of anthropology, but not a lot. But those other two are my main ones I do a lot of studying on because I've always been interested in how we function in society and how the individual connects with society. And then I think that especially being Black, we do a lot of anthropology and don't realize it because we always talk about how we work as a cultural group, how we function in that group, but we don't realize that's anthropology.
Yeah.
And then when you had pointed out about biblical times and stuff like that, and you understand that, you understand like how witchcraft was talked about and how people really got into witchcraft because that's the way they could describe certain things that was going on at that time. So witchcraft back then is different than what we think witchcraft is now.
Yeah.
For that time, they didn't have the vocabulary to describe certain things. So they just called it witchcraft. So understanding anthropology and even sociology and stuff like that, you can understand how to relate to those ancient times and can make that connection to a modern time.
Bring it all back.
Bring it all back in one.
That sounds real good. But hold that thought. We're going to take another commercial break. And when we come back, we'll have a little bit more with Dr. Ashley. Y'all stay tuned.
Looking for a great home-cooked meal and you don't have time to prepare it? Well, your solution is here. Mad Mac Catering. The food is made with love and with a touch of soul. Contact us at 704-516-4334 or on Twitter at SmadMac or the website www.madmax.net. That's www.madmacs.net.
And we are back. Y'all make sure that y'all are checking out all of the businesses that we are dropping on these commercial breaks. Of course, that one right there was Big Old Mars Catering Company. Y'all make sure you check it out if you're in the Raleigh-Durham area. We have Dr. Ashley, and she has been dropping some intense
taking us to school, boy.
knowledge.
Classes in session. Classes in session.
I'm ready to go out and do me some surgery.
No,
I don't.
I don't want you nowhere near me with no blade, no nothing.
Well, actually, you know what? He's a cook. He's. Nice with his hands. Nice.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying perform it on me.
I don't want it on me either.
I'd rather see you do it on like a cadaver first before I can trust.
Let me see you do it on a rat first.
A rat?
You see how I cut up that meat, girl? Pause. But you know what I'm saying?
I can't.
Anyway, before he takes over the show, because I feel it coming. Before the break, we were having some really, really great conversation with Dr. Ashley, but I wanted to dig in. She answered your question, right?
Go ahead.
I had to make sure I can remember
I
that.
was just making a statement. But go ahead.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you finished your statement.
No.
I
can get on the soapbox, but I'm not.
We know. We are fully aware. I wanted to dig in with you, Dr. Ashley, a little bit of how your childhood was, and what were some of the core values as a Black woman that you were raised in that got you to be so successful to the point now, because you're still in your 20s, correct?
Yeah.
24, 25?
26 now, thank God.
Wow.
But still, that's
You're
still
growing up fast.
Oh my gosh.
Oh Lord.
I cannot with him. Tell us about your childhood. Tell us, what pushed you to get to this level that you're at now.
So my parents did an excellent job. And I'm always telling them, I'm like, man, y'all really are like the best parents ever, because not only am I what, people say is successful, right? Because it's more than just degrees, and it's more than just like money and those types of things.
Right.
Because those things come and go, kind of. It's also about like happiness and self-confidence and self-worth and those types of things.
Right.
And what they did a really good job of is instilling in us giving back to others. And then also, having confidence even if there are naysayers, because they knew that there would be as Black women, because it's me and my little sister. And then also teach us about the power of education. So my parents, they both met at Prairie View A&M in Texas, which is a HBCU. Yes. So my dad was in the military, Marine Corps for 23 years. So discipline for him was really forefront of his parenting. But my mom was kind of like the good cop. So, but they still both did not play. Woo! And so in my household, I learned very early for myself, and this is based off their parenting, that if you do what they're asking to do, most likely they're not wrong. So listen to them. There's a reason why they're telling you certain things. I learned early, this is why they told me not to do this. Okay. Right. So I would learn to really listen to them. But then my parents also gave us a lot of independence earlier. So, people are going to judge my parents, but, I'm young and I'm a doc, and my sister, she's a true genius, and that she was a judge by the time she was 23, a judge. Wow. Yeah. So, and now she's moved up to a bigger department and all this stuff. So she's really the true genius. So she's what happened was I was the guinea pig and they were trying to figure out if it worked. And she came along and they was like, okay, we know what to do now.
Right, we got this on the wraps now.
So I was a real active child. And so my parents see. And so my parents. Oh no, it's fine. I've accepted who I am.
I'm the same way. Don't feel bad, shit. I'm the same way.
Nope. I'm made peace with it. My parents, they, instead of trying to correct that or bring it down, especially for a little girl, right? I think boys probably get away with that more. So they saw that in me and they said, well, okay. So they didn't try to control it. So people would judge my parents, but they were those parents back in the 90s that had me on a leash. They didn't have my sister on a leash because she cried as soon as you put her down. So she was always with them.
That sounds like my sister.
I wasn't like that. I would go up to people and be like, hey.
That was me. Yep, that was me.
Be everywhere, just all over, right? You get it.
Right.
Then. And so they had to put me on a leash because they wanted me to explore, because that's how they figured out that I learned a lot of stuff, because I would ask a lot of questions. What's this? What's that? What's this? What's that? And so, but they also gave me independence in that I wouldn't hurt myself. And so they had to have me on this leash.
Right.
I got better because eventually I learned by the time I was like 3 or 4, like, if I go work with my mama, she gonna get mad at me. And like, discipline me in front of all these folks. So, I should stay by her. But when I was like way younger, I didn't know. I'm like 2, like you're trying to discipline me. I don't know what you're saying to me. As I got older, I got smarter. I was like, if I want to prevent, hurting later, maybe I should stay close to my mom.
That part.
At least
for the
when
part of
she can
time.
see me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Arms distance away.
Yeah,
Exactly.
took me a minute to understand that.
Yes,
You should get drop kicked.
reading between the lines.
Right.
So, because my parents are disciplinarians, but they weren't that bad. My mom was definitely the good cop, and that's the other thing. My mom and my dad always let us record it and like put it in a child's place. Like when we would ask certain things up until the most explicit things, I at least could ask my mom. My dad, he was a little bit more like after mama. But he at least allowed it. And so when stuff would happen, like I would go to middle school and hear about certain stuff, I already knew what they were talking about. This was my first time versus some of my friends. I think, unfortunately, they had never had to talk maybe with their family, or they had never heard about certain things, like some of the more like traumatic and like really bad things in society that we almost don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I had heard these things. My mom was a school counselor too, and so that probably helped. I had already heard these things, and so I didn't feel easily influenced and peer pressure because I was like, I mean, there's nothing to be curious about. I already know what you're talking about.
Right.
And my mom and dad did a good job of like realizing that you're going to hear it at some point. I think sometimes people act like if I don't talk about it, the world does not exist, which is not a good strategy. Especially now, when people can get on their phone and Google anything, people the TV is less censored than it's ever been. There's just so many things that are being thrown at your children. Please talk to them. So the first time that they're hearing about the birds and the bees, it's not from the 11-year-old in their class, because that's the unfortunate thing. And my mom used to always say that. She would say, I would rather tell you as a grown adult who has the values of our household, right? So I can kind of frame what you're hearing about it, at least, for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to your 11-year-old friends who don't know what they're talking about. They could be talking about all types of stuff that we don't accept in this household. And like, it's just better if you hear it from me as an adult and as your parent that you trust.
Right.
Because you could say, my mama told me, and what you're saying is not right. And that's something that I would say, because with the neck roll and everything. But my sister, she's more introverted. Exactly. So she might not have said anything, but she knew, I guess, in her heart of what our parents had told her. So she would be like, y'all just talking. So that was to the benefit, though, because it's very hard to have those conversations with children. And you have to be careful because each child is different, is what I've learned too. I don't have children, so I try to stay away from what I don't know, right? Talking too much. Yeah.
No,
so
I said, what you waiting on?
Stability, financial.
Mental stability?
Say it again?
Is that mental stability?
Sweet Jesus. Or like money stability.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking.
Expensive.
You might be a little crazy. I'm just asking.
Oh, no.
Cars are expensive.
You of all people know that kids is expensive, bro. Don't even do
one at
that.
the table with the most kids.
Yeah, you almost built you a starting five. Almost got you a basketball team.
All right, compared to your 2 and my 1. No sir. Nope.
Nah, I'm gonna stick with my 2. I'm good right there.
So I used to want 8.
You wanted 8?
Mm-hmm.
8? Wow.
I wanted 8.
Dang.
That's because you don't have to push them out.
Hey,
That part.
Yeah, if I had to push them out, I just want one.
You have to push out 8. You would
I
be
was
like,
constipated
okay,
one time. I couldn't handle that.
Hey, I just got to show up, and that's it.
I cannot.
Show up, I drop the seed, I go.
All right, next topic, because here he goes. I feel this about to be real bad.
Now, you brought up, since we're talking about family, how do we get more Dr. Ashley Petersons in the world where it's not just in our culture where, entertainers, sports, things like that. How do we get more doctors in this industry?
In your opinion?
So I'm so happy you said this, right? This is one of my favorite kind of questions. Like, what can Black people do to like change some things, right? Because unfortunately, and this is a controversial topic, because people get mad at me when I say this.
Oh, I don't think it's controversial. I think it's a conversation we need to have.
It has to be had. It has to be had.
They get really upset because what I always say is I think that sometimes we are waiting for white people as a collective to save us. And I think that's unfortunate because
that deserves it.
For the last 300 or
drop bomb.
Right out
I have to be careful though, because I don't want my white counterparts to think that like it's against them. No, it's never against them. It's just pro-Black and pro. Actually, it will benefit white people because they always love to say, "Well, how come your community this and how come your community that?" It's somewhat. And so I would say, okay, fine. So then these are the things that Black people should probably do, and I always call it the foe to our oppression. 3 things. FOE. So family and friends. We need to build stronger communities. Basically, that's what that means. And so some people can't pick their family. Some people's families are awful, trash, just traumatic, and just really not good. So I can't tell you to pick your family and build a good family with them, right? You didn't pick them. There are some issues you can't figure out, but you can pick your friends. So I say no excuses on the friends.
Right.
You can pick your friends. So build a good community with your friends. Then I say, so O is ownership. When you own something, whether it be your house, your business, whichever, you can create jobs. You can buy furniture from the local area businesses. You hire a lawn person. And then you build roots in that community. So my dentist, my doctor, my lawn person, my realtor, my person who cleans my car. For me, most of the businesses that I frequent that are around me to eat on purpose. That's why I chose where I live. My community is 90% Black. All of these people are Black, and it's because I have roots. Like I bought a house where I live, and so that's giving back and circulating the Black dollar. And so when we own, we circulate the Black dollar better. We are able to have some type of power because now you have your equity in your house that you can talk to the bank about. And so, I could go on and on and on about this.
We love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's good information though.
Yeah.
I actually, unfortunately, and this person may or may not ever listen to this episode, but she knows I got into her. I had to educate someone the other day, and that's the last thing, education. So education, not just on college, but there's also trade schools. There's also just being educated on self. There's also being educated on different topics like cooking and cleaning, and all those things matter in the greater whole. So education is the last one. But back to really quick, because I had to educate someone on sharecropping. They did not know what it was. And it's very unfortunate because they are a Black person, but they are not slave-derived Black. And so they're an immigrant into the country. And so it was unfortunate that they did not know the history of Black people in this country, though they've lived here for 20 plus years.
Right.
And, I employ everyone to learn their history because it's not only just this person. There are so many people who don't know their history, don't know what a sharecropper is.
Right.
But the beauty about sharecropper, the beauty about the parallel is actually awful, disgusting, and awful sharecropping. But it's a parallel that people, I don't know, people always make this connection. So basically, after the slaves were freed, they didn't have land because the 40 acres and a mule that we were supposed to get, they tried to say, oh, we're going to give you money and put it in a bank. And then they stole the money from the bank.
Yep.
Please look that stuff up. It's a whole like Black history thing that they don't want us to know, which is why I would say, why are we waiting for people who are for 300 years as a collective? There are amazing white people who have helped Dr. King. There are amazing white people I met every day who will help me and selfless that are great. I would say actually it's becoming more and more and more, millions and millions, to where the majority, can I say? Maybe. I don't know people's hearts. But there's a lot of people, but there's also millions who also are still about oppressing Black people. So we still have more work to do, tons more work to do. But waiting for them to change, I personally don't think it's the answer. I think it's more likely that we as Black people won't change. We want to change. And so to get change, we have to change too, despite the powers that be. And yes, we have less power in this country, but we are the ones who want to change. I think expecting people who don't want to change and they actually benefit from it is not going to see as many results as we may hope. We will just keep hoping like we have for the last 300 years. So, yeah, I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting.
Yeah.
And so the sharecropper back in the day, that we were supposed to get the 40 acres and a mule, but we never ended up getting this land. So people, what would happen is we had a lot of skills. So back to the education. Our education at that time was about working the land. And so we were really good at planting and watering and our agriculture. And so what happened is our white owners would take advantage of the fact that we didn't have much. But we had to use our skills to make a living. So we would basically, get 3 acres that was quote unquote ours to work. And so the white person still owned it and made money off of it and took the harvest and sold it and got 90, let's be generous, 95% of the profit. Probably more likely 99%, but we'll say 95%. And the Black person who worked the land and did the harvest and did all the work would get 5% of those profits, literally pennies on the dollar. And so that was sharecropping. It was a very, like I said, disgusting and, practice that definitely exploited Black people and that they didn't have more skills at that time because of oppression, because of slavery. Those are the reasons why, but the fact still stands that is what the truth was. And so now we come now and there are white people and Asians who own the majority of real estate in America and Jewish people. The majority of real estate in America. What they do is they have practices of renting to Black people. And so what happens is we pay their mortgages. Very similar to sharecropping, huh? It's very similar, right? Like we paid the mortgages that they use to pass down houses to their children. But because we're renters, we'll never pass down that house to our child that we paid on for 5, 10 plus years. And so it seems to me very similar. And so it's not a legal practice. These people choose to rent or because of systemic racism over time, we know that Black people have a hard time buying houses and earning the income that are necessary to buy houses. But what I'm saying is there are other groups in America, ding, 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 Latinos. And what Latinos do, not always, and so this is definitely an anecdotal, and that is a story of just one, not just one, but
a few.
A couple,
like a small sector of Latinos but has been studied. And so that's why, you all have brought up anthropology and sociology. I love this part of anthropology and sociology because A group of Latino people have shown an example of something I think that Black people could adopt. Basically what happens is, and this is an unfortunate stereotype, so this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying this particular family that has truly been studied.
Mm-hmm.
What happened is they take 5 families of like 4, and they basically live in one home, but the home has like 4 bedrooms.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they put in, and usually it's like the oldest, like the parent, or sometimes they do the opposite, the youngest family actually, to help them get a footing. And they all pay these 20 people, right? So probably more like 10 people, because some of these people are going to be kids. So 10 people, they take all of their checks and they put it into one pot. And so from that pot, they pay off the mortgage. And so they pay off these houses in like 3 years, when it should have taken 10, 20, 30 years to pay off a mortgage, right? They pay it off. Now what they can do is they can co-sign on the next house.
Yep.
And so now they have a co-signer who has a whole house paid off. And so what they do is now 8 people who are making income.
Right.
Because it's the 4 people family. So you're thinking 2 adults. Now 8 people are now moving on to the next house. They're leaving the 2 people and the kids. So 4 people back at the other house. So 15 people in this new house. So 4 and 6, still 20. And so now they have a co-signer. And they're going to still be paying off with these 8 people. Then they go to the next house. So eventually over like 20 years of when they would have bought one house,
And bought like 4.
now they bought like 10 houses. They have all these houses. They can co-sign on each other, and they have really good footing and really good credit and really good stability, because they're putting it all into the same pot.
Right.
That takes unity,
Yeah.
which goes back to family and friends.
Right.
So that's why I say the folk. You need all of the things. They all work off of each other. One goes to, you have to have the education and the real estate system. You have to have education, credit, and money and finances and stuff in order to do the family and to go back and find a good family of friends that you can do unity with, to now own the second one, which is the house or whichever. And you have to know when stuff is like a good investment, which goes back to education. Because, for example, people buy cars all the time,
Right.
which is honestly a waste of your money. Because as soon as it drives off the lot, at least is what my parents used to say. I should probably look it up, but the value goes down at least. And a lot of people will tell you the value goes down like 20% off the lot. Like, that's a lot.
That's a huge piece.
Huge. That's just for going off the lot. You haven't even used it, crafted, nothing. So it's a depreciating asset. Houses usually go up in value. And again, once we see value in things and once we see ownership in things, there's a reason that, at least in Atlanta, I can speak to Atlanta, right? There's a reason inside the perimeter they're doing what we call gentrification.
Right.
So these houses that we and I say we because Atlanta is a Black city, so I can say we Black people historically, like 04 Ward 10 years ago. I went to high school out here, so I know, like, for real. 04 Ward used to be what we would call, and we're honest, the hood. We would call it that. Now they're like doing $1 million homes. I'm like, what in 04 Ward? There's people walking around with the dogs and the kids because they've done what gentrified it. And why? Because they identify value. Did we identify value in it?
Nope.
I don't know.
That's happening a lot.
That's happening across the whole nation.
I'm gonna say it don't matter where you go.
Across the whole nation, right?
Yes, that's everywhere.
Exactly. It definitely is everywhere. And so I just implore us to, if we saw the value, maybe we could have been the owners of those homes. We could have been the owners of these businesses that are like springing up. We could have been the owners of those things. It takes nothing to maybe, for example, unfortunately, when I go to certain parts of Atlanta that are more Black, and see, this is where it starts to become a thing. People will say, well, I feel like you're just coming for Black people. And I'm saying something simple as, hey, let's just pick up the trash. That's all I'm saying. And they're like, well, they hire people to do it in the other neighborhoods. And I say, yeah, because unfortunately, those other neighborhoods have taxes that are higher because they've gentrified the areas, and that's how we're getting moved out of the areas. And it's unfortunate. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is that means that we have to decide, okay, I'm not going to sell my grandmother's house when she passes. I'm going to keep it in the family.
That part.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to be swayed by the easy money or whatever. I'm going to, or if I am, I'm going to do the renovations myself.
Right.
Not like literally you like building out there, but what I'm saying, I'm going to hire someone. And it would be great in a city like Atlanta where I know there are options. I can't speak for every city. I can't speak for, you know, Oklahoma or whatever.
Right.
But I know in Atlanta there's a black option. So now you're putting money back into black hands, which is going to help their black families be able to afford maybe some of the opportunities that some other groups are able to afford. So now their kid can go to that better school and get the better education. On and on and on. The cycle just continues. But that happens because someone chose to own a black construction company. It just goes on and on and on. So now you're hiring this black construction company to do the renovations, and then you decide you are going to sell it. I actually don't have an issue with that because you live in Kentucky. You don't want to move to Atlanta. Your grandmama decided to live in Atlanta. You don't want to move there. So you've decided to sell it. But when you sell it, don't let them undercut you in price, which goes back to education. Do you know what the comps are or the comparables are in the area?
Right.
And then should you hold it a little bit? Because something's about to happen. Like, for example, when they built the SunTrust baseball stadium up in Cobb, those houses sprung up and their value went up exponentially. So if you know that's happening, maybe just wait a little bit.
Right.
Or if you see that gentrification is happening, if you can afford to, you know, during those stages. And then if you sell it, have a plan for the money. What is your plan for the money that once you sell it? And you have to know that you're going to have to pay taxes on that. Yeah. So knowing that goes back again to education. Education of more than just degree. Because you can have a degree, a wonderful degree in biology, but do you know how money works? Because unless your degree is in economics, you might not know.
Right.
And so it's more than just the degree, because people get second like college is not for everyone. I agree. I'm on your side, but that does not remove you from the responsibility you have to go out here on Google, to go out here on YouTube. You know how I learned stocks? My parents taught me stocks, but what I learned recently was options. You know how I learned? There's this black girl on there who talks about. It's like called Black Girl Stocks. If you talk about, and I feel like I relate to her. You know her? Yeah, great. Yes.
I think a lot of people fail to realize that, you know, because like for me, college wasn't for me. I went to a trade school, and everything else that I've learned via reading. Reading is very fundamental. It's still alive. Let's continue to pick up a book. And a lot of things on YouTube, and Jamel and I were talking about that earlier. There's another group on YouTube called Earn Your Leisure. Yes. So, and they are another shout out to them in their podcast. But they teach about credit. They bought a guy up there called Him 500 who literally teaches you how to do your credit, how to rebuild your credit, how to make your money work for you, things that we don't know. And he's like 25 and he's a billionaire because he learned what his skills were. He kept educating himself.
You can't play the game until you know how it's played.
Hello. Like that's
just how it is.
Right.
I mean, you can't call yourself a player in the game if you don't know how it's played.
Hello.
Period.
Exactly.
Listen, I hate that this conversation has to end.
You got us in all over
listen, you are a ball of knowledge that we love. And as we always say, you are now officially in the friend zone. You are kinfolk.
Right.
And we wish you the utmost amazing success because
prosperity.
you are already on the path to greatness. Shout out to your parents because
Yeah.
listen, y'all got not just one but two geniuses in the family.
Right,
I'm trying to be the adopted daughter. That's what I'm trying to be.
I don't know. It's too late for
It's
this,
not.
man.
It's never too late.
I'm kidding.
It's never too late. I'm only 4 years older than her.
No,
okay?
you 30. You can't get adopted no more.
The
Shawty.
lies. As they do it. No. As they
As
do on YouTube, you see these grown adults asking their step parents to adopt them at 31 and 32. I'll be alive.
Oh, so you just want the papers written on there.
My daddy always said have a paper trail no matter where you go. Have a paper trail. No, but let them before we let you go, let them know where they can find you, what you have, because you also have a podcast. You have a whole lot of stuff that we didn't even dig into. Let them know where they can find you, where they can follow you at, so they can get some of this knowledge. Because y'all
soak it up.
Her Instagram, she be dropping some good knowledge on there.
Right.
As well as our podcast. So let them know where they can find you at.
Yeah, so I have. It's so funny because I'm like, man, I'm doing way too much. I need to condense. So you can find me on literally almost every platform. So I am on Twitter, but it's usually just repost from Instagram, which is my major platform. So Instagram is where you can find me actively, almost daily posting. So my @ is Dr. So Dr. Ashley Ashley Roxanne, which is ROXANNE. So Dr. Ashley Roxanne or Dr. Rox. You can look me up that way as well. It'll come up. And that's because I go by my middle name. My mom's name is Roxanne, so it's like a namesake. It means something to me. Yeah. And then I'm on LinkedIn. So I connect with a lot of people on there for jobs and things of that nature and professional things. And then I also am on YouTube. So that's something that it's so funny because I just built out like a YouTube studio, so I'll be recording more.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm really excited about that because I think that YouTube is the future, guys. Like if anyone's listening to this, get on YouTube now because
IOW Network.
Yeah, that's really the future.
That's the future.
IOW.
Yeah, we're getting ready to start our we want in the process of start our own platform.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we
you guys have
we
to send me everything.
We going ownership. We going part of the O part. We going ownership.
Yes.
So
can't be about to change unless you are.
Yeah.
So we starting with.
I love it.
We start with internet radio. So once you get your stuff up and running, we'd love to have you on our internet radio.
Yeah.
Because we can use some medical information coming out through our internet radio. So I'll be connecting with you on that sometime down the line.
Absolutely.
Then from there, we're going to move into a video platform, which will hopefully in the future rival YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. I don't see why not you.
Right.
Why not you?
Right.
YouTube one time was one video, and now look at it now. So I say, why not you? And that's the other thing. Black people, we have to believe that we are great.
Hello.
Right.
There's greatness in us.
Right.
Like we truly can do it, despite all the oppression, despite all the naysayers, despite all the stuff that we see around us. Like literally watching, unfortunately, people like die in the streets at the hands of people who unfortunately have other options than killing.
Right.
We are still great despite those things. And I guess I'll end on that. I guess
before you go, I wanted to bring this part up. I thought this was interesting.
Okay.
And we'll keep it short.
Sorry, I'm just very passionate.
No, don't pay him no mind. We love your passion. He just being a real ignoramus right now. Don't pay him no mind.
Just being that nigga. That's what he's
being a nigga.
But, I think it was on your Instagram. My sister kind of pointed out to me. She said, and I'm gonna have to paraphrase. I remember exactly what it said, but something to the fact that you were told you were too pretty to be a doctor.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was crazy when I heard that.
I was like, what is what doctor's supposed to look like? Is it supposed to be a
doctor's supposed to be ugly or
white man or something?
Yeah, and I hear this a lot. Like, I'm not even trying to like toot my horn or like anything. It just really strikes me.
No worries, we'll toot it for you. Toot, boo, boo.
Beep,
beep, beep, boo, boo.
Black Girl Magic is still alive, and she is one of them. Okay.
Oh, thank you. it really, really stops me in my tracks every single time because I don't. It's sad.
Mm-hmm.
I expect this, but I expect people to comment on my age, right?
Right.
I expect people to be leery a little bit. Like I had a woman the other day. Every time I came into the room, her heart rate jumped up on the monitor. It was probably. I'm not saying it was because of my skin. I'll probably just surprise her. But there have definitely been microaggressions because of my skin. So because I'm a Black woman, I expect that. I deal with that every day. I've made peace with that. It doesn't bother me actually at this point. Because I love me. I love my skin. I love the skin I'm in.
Got you.
And then as a woman, I get called the nurse very often. Like it actually just happened. Someone had come to do. I got like a healthcare discount. And someone had come to do an estimate on something I was getting done for my home. And she said, "Oh, so I'm assuming you're a nurse." I said, "Well, actually, I'm a doctor." Not in a way that's kind of like, I'm a doctor. But what I'm saying is, like, I get assumed to be the nurse versus, like, for example, my significant other, he also is a Black, but male in medicine. I asked him before, I said, "Did you ever get called a nurse?" And he was like, "No, not really." Like, sometimes he says that he has been called like a staff or employee in the hospital that's not a doc or something like that, right? But he says he can't recall being called a nurse, right? But because I'm a woman, that happens. So, but being called too pretty to be a doctor, that's one that I don't think I've dealt with as much. Like, I've never dealt with and thus had to make peace with the fact that you could be, I guess, quote unquote, attractive, and somehow that takes from your mind and intelligence and, you know, things of that nature, I guess. Because I think that's what they're trying to insinuate to me. And for it to happen so commonly, I'm like, man, this is like really a misogynistic, or I don't even really know, thing. And so I really just want to tell anyone that it doesn't matter what people say about you, about, oh, you're too this or you're too that. You know, if someone is probably telling you you're mean, you should probably listen to that, you know. You need to go into some soul searching. You know, if everyone around you, you might be the problem.
You may be the toxic trait. You might be.
It might be. It might really be you. But a lot of women get told for just being assertive. Literally just, it's so funny, this happened to me the other day. I literally just told someone, hey, can you draw up this lab from 3 hours ago? It's critical for a patient. And they reported me to their boss, and their boss called me and said that, yeah, this worker was intimidated.
Wow.
And it's just so funny because it's not in my personhood. I just assertively told them, hey, this patient has been waiting for, just in this tone too, this patient has been waiting for 3 hours for this lab, and it's very critical. When you can, and that's the other thing I said, when you can you please draw this lab?
They would just
and somehow being assertive in that manner of saying, hey, please do this for this patient. I guess telling people to do their job is intimidating. And yet it's not. It's not intimidating. It's just direct, and it's just people sometimes exactly, like, people sometimes they project on you. And so since they knew they weren't doing their job, they felt insecure in that. And so that insecurity is really what they feel. It's not intimidation. They feel insecure.
That part.
And so many times that happens to people where they are labeled as intimidating, and when they're really just assertive. And so if you're ever told that you're too something, too pretty, too assertive, too bossy, you know, too young, too old, whatever, I just employ anyone, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Jewish, I don't care actually, to say, no, I disagree. Now, this takes someone with a lot of maturity, like I said, because you have to know, am I being mean or am I being, like I said, assertive?
Right.
And that's why you have to do some introspection.
Do some introspection of knowing, like, are you too whichever, or are you living in your truth? And thus, by living in your truth, just ignore those people and just keep going. I think that's the biggest. If you take anything, if you don't quit, you can never lose.
That right.
It just keeps going and going.
That right there. That's the ending comment right there. That's perfect.
Exactly.
Hey, man, you still ain't got them organs yet. You still ain't got them organs yet. We need them organ sound effects, bro.
That was that church one right there.
Doctor just took it to church.
That right there.
Just took it to church.
Well, we thank you so much for just taking some time out of your day to sit with us. We appreciate you. And like we said, let us know if there's anything that we can do on any of our platforms to help you grow.
With any cause you got going on anything.
Yeah, let us know. We are definitely here to support. We are part of the friendship. We are going to make sure that we are there for you. Thank you for being on our show. We're gonna let you go and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day that has come upon us. So y'all make sure you go and follow Dr. Ashley on all of her platforms. It will be in the link right down below. Right down. Keep looking there. Hit the arrow button, slowness. Right down below. Until next time, girl, y'all, I'm your girl, Black Barbara Walters.
Chit-chat, welcome wine. I'm out the building.
And of course,
it is I, it's me.
The man with the grandmaster plan, Melly Mel.
Until next time, we got more of this 28 days of Black history, Black power, everything that's blickety black, baby. Y'all stay tuned.
Y'all, and I'm black, y'all.
We love y'all.
Black, y'all. Black, y'all.
Every day, that's you and me. All day, that's us, boo. Came through with that new thing. See, I don't know why I trust you. Crazy now, just too on. Maybe now, just too gone. Maybe now, I'm just looking for that same vibe that you on.